Rebellious Studio presents the Mind Body Podcast with your host, Maria Angelova. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mind Body Podcast with me, your host, Maria, your rebellious podcast, all about the strong body, calm mind, fully living and healing. And I am thrilled today to introduce to you my awesome guest, Mel, who I will keep saying this on all the episodes, like attracts like, and my story with Mel is just that, like attracts like. I will use my words for you, Mel. Totally rebellious spirit, passionate, empowering others, somebody who is so heart-filled and driven, and somebody who is truly an inspiration to me. So Mel, with that, I welcome you on board and thank you so much for finding the time to be here.
Oh, thank you. I would always say yes to you. I adore you. We are like soul sisters, and you're right. You know, when like minds attract, you just start working together on projects. So thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So Mel and I had the opportunity to meet at a speaking event and we connected, and the rest is history. I would say the same thing. Mel is one of those person who, if she asks me something, I'll be like, I will be there. So somebody I highly, highly, highly respect. So Mel, we will start by diving in and tell us 3 words that describe you and tell us like the story behind each one.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What did I put down? The wrong seats. Clarity, right? Clarity starts with when I was 50 years old, I was eliminated for the first time in my life. 2 weeks after I was eliminated, I was losing a paycheck that had been stability for our household for a long time. And I went into the hospital because I had a blood pressure of 87/40, and I thought I was dying. And it was these physical symptoms that turned into real scarcity, right? Went into the hospital for 3 days and tried to prove to them that there was something wrong with me. And yet I had never had a panic attack in my life. And so what I realized is that physical symptom of not being able, your body takes over when your mind says you don't know what to do next. And that scared me so bad. And I didn't really know how to put a framework or conversation or anything about it. I wasn't writing, I wasn't journaling. I just kind of said, I don't really know what to do next. So I just kept trying to figure out where my space fit. I had just started my Everyday Leaders podcast. 4 months into it, I was feeling like, do I keep that going? Do I go get a new job? What do I do? And so what I ended up doing was taking some roles in contracting work and doing some work in the same industry as I was developing my own company. And so that clarity was like, you don't have to go in a completely different direction. All you have to do is keep doing what you know how to do. And things just started to unveil for me. A lot of things, what I was going to do in my company, coaching, consulting, training, workshops, events, speaking, so much context around how my business is going to look. But at the moment that I needed clarity the most, I felt so lost. I felt like I had never learned anything in my life in those last 50 years, right? You just freeze.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's your first response. That's exactly what it is. It's your body freezing from the stress.
It's your body freezing from the stress. And at that moment, I thought, what am I going to do to change this? I don't want this to ever happen again. And so what I learned is I don't really talk about that moment from a coaching perspective, but I've never had fear. So we'll talk about this a little bit, but my why is challenge. And so I don't look at anything in the world as an obstacle. I look at it as an opportunity. So when I had something that I couldn't control that took over my body, I was like, what's going on? I don't have this kind of a problem, right? So it made me really stop and think, how do I help people? Now I can identify. Now I have empathy for them. When I hear them say, well, I was stuck or I couldn't do this. And I was like, I finally felt that for the first time.
Yeah, you can relate firsthand to what they're talking about, right? And you create that body mind awareness that you just never really had to have, right? Until the urgency hit you, like, I've never been in this situation, what's happening and what's next. And I also want to say, very important, when you talk about clarity, you said once you get the clarity, things just started falling into place, right? But that's not how we're taught to process, right? It's like we always need a solution and how we're going to do it and what's happening next, right?
But you have to wait. You have to wait. And that is the scariest part, because you don't know the answers. And if you don't have a process for the waiting,
That's exactly right.
oh my goodness.
But that's mental health, that's depression, that's all the problems that we're dealing with today that got escalated post pandemic, because that's what happened to a lot of people, and they don't have the toolbox to deal with those problems, right?
You don't have it, and you're isolated, and you don't know, right? People say, oh, well, just ask for help. You don't even know how to ask for help. You don't know what you need because you're frozen, right? It's when you talk about body position, and when you say you get into a frozen shoulder or a frozen this, or it's stuck. There is no way to just like go, okay, just do this and it'll change. You have to really work towards eliminating the symptoms that are happening around it before you can get down to the real root cause. And that's the real issue. And when we're stuck, we don't know how to resource ourselves. So it's so important, the people that are saying, oh, well, why couldn't you just do this? Well, it's not that easy. It's not that easy
when you're in the moment, right? You can see it from the outside, but when you're in that moment, it's that frozen position that you feel, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to act. I'm lost. I'm stuck. And it appears like everything looks like there's no perspective, right?
Yes.
That's yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? Life has, I think, incredible ways of teaching us lessons that we need to learn. So I would say, from where I sit, and I would bet that's probably what you see, a lot of people start growing when that urgency hits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're comfortable with what we know, there is no urgency to get out and see what else is out there, right? Outside the comfort zone.
Well, and we say like, oh, okay, so for people that have a full-time job, right? So they go into work for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden COVID happens. We'll use that example because it's so relative.
Yep.
And maybe, their company starts to change the way that they do things, or we're going to work from home now, from now on, even though COVID has kind of resolved itself a little bit in a lot of companies. And yet people are saying, I want to go back to what was normal. And they're so afraid to still embrace that change that's going to give them maybe more freedom, more opportunities, more direction, more clarity. And yet we don't want that. We really don't want that change. We want to just stay status quo because that's what we know.
It's very interesting that you said that, because I saw two sides of the story, right? The one is when COVID hit, people who are used to traveling and being out on the road and being the big boss, right? And all of a sudden they're like, they lost their identity because they don't know who they are without that, right? Without that part of their life. And then on the flip side, now with the example that you gave, as people were given a new normal, a lot of people are working extra hard because they feel insecure about where they are. So instead of taking that as an opportunity, right, to invest more in themselves, in their families, there is that insecurity and fear, right? It's the fear that, how did you know we were going to talk about fear, Mel?
Well, I just kind of figured, that's what we always talk about.
All right, inevitable topic. So yeah, I think that's so spot on. Totally agree with what you said. All right, so clarity, one.
Yes. Second word is consistency.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Whew, consistency is a big one for me. My word this year in 2023 is systems. That has come from 4 years of being consistent and learning that the things that I needed to do were right in front of me. Yet I was so unwilling to put those systems in place because I was afraid of what that would look like if I achieved it. It was almost like, okay, well, that's going to make you stronger. Okay, so then what? Well, then you're accountable, right? Then you have to be more accountable because you have another layer of knowledge. And what happened to me was during that, I was eliminated. And so a couple of years into this, I was searching for how to be consistent. And the clarity moment came when I was challenged by my mentor, and he said, "Hey, if you really want clarity and wisdom and courage," which is my other C word, "you should read the book of Proverbs for 31 days." And so I thought, well, okay, you're my mentor. You tell me things that I learn all the time. So I got a group of people together. We got on Zoom and we just started every morning doing a 30-minute devotional on leadership, on biblical scripture leadership. And today was like 1190 days, I think, of doing this.
So impressed by you, Mel. Consistency, you would be my inspiration for consistency. I mean it. I watch you and I'm like, that's consistency. And
But here's the thing, it's the clarity because I was clear about why I needed to start that. And so every single day has been like, not, oh, who's going to sign on, or oh, I should develop a program around this or anything like that. It was just, I get clear every single day now because I show up to gain clarity. So whatever I'm dealing with, it just gives me perspective to be able to get through my day and what decisions to say yes to, what to say no to, most importantly, and to be able to gauge where I want to go next. And so it has made me, man, it has just changed my life on putting systems together, right? So this year's my word of systems because I figured out you don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to take that first step. And that's the clarity moment that I learned about consistency. So I'm really trying to integrate that into everything else that I do in all my programs. And it's starting to really pay back in tenfold. And so I'm learning a lot.
I want to highlight one thing that you said, that your perspective changed, right? So how you look at things, and everything is an opportunity, and everything is an opportunity to do something new, to learn something, right? To gain a lesson from it. And if you just tune into yourself, right, and say, this is what I need to do, and don't overthink it, because I don't know about you, but I am that person who will try to perfect it. And, paralysis by analysis, that's, I can speak about that.
Yes.
So there is something empowering about just taking action, right? Allowing to be guided forward instead of overthinking it and not doing it because you're planning the perfect program and it takes you 3 years to launch it.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's the thing, right? And you were a part of our program last December when I said COVID has happened. I wasn't having live events like I had been having in the past. And so I just, one night in about, I think the 1st of October said, I want to have an event and I want to have 25 speakers and I want to do it a 6-hour live event. And so my husband does production. He's my production guy. And he said, how are we going to put this together? And so we just started, we got the right people and the right resources to do something that we saw that would serve a bigger population, that were always reaching out to us for service. And I'm telling you, that was one of those things that I didn't know I hadn't done something like that before. A lot of Zoom events, a lot of virtual events during the year that I was helping either MC or be a part of or help people on the back end coordinate. Yet putting it together to be what I saw a vision for, right? It was completely different because I knew the people that were my clients or who I wanted to serve or the information that I wanted to bring. And so it was about just taking that and molding it and doing something that you felt could produce content for you and for your audience that was going to be able to bring value to them and in such a different way, right, than what I normally was doing. And so that, again, the clarity, right? It was the clarity and having that ability to be consistent, saying, I know how to do this, just need to bring this together for a different program. And I'm just telling you, you don't even know what's in front of you until it happens, until the opportunities are there. And you just, you know this, you have to take that space wherever you are every single day. And you have to, the mindset of being present in that space when you show up, it helps the ideas, the opportunities, the confidence to come to you in a way that you can't even explain until you go through it.
Absolutely. But I do have to add something to that, Mel, and I'll give you kudos for that. It's the action that comes after that.
Mm-hmm.
Because how many people have great ideas, and nothing happens because there is no action post that, right? It goes back to that paralysis that we talked about.
I know.
So you know, and when I say you're somebody who inspires me because you are action. You are everywhere. You know, I'm like one of the people who I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like a slacker. How is she putting all this stuff together? You know, and that's the consistency of action, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just consistency of vision and clarity, but it's also doing something with it, which is, I think, where a lot of people stop.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm telling you, the lesson of learning what to say yes to and definitely what to say no to, that's given me the clarity of it feels like I do a lot of stuff, but it's all the same thing, right? I'm serving the same type of customer. I'm serving in the same way. I'm doing the same thing. I'm teaching leadership. I'm showing up to add value to programs. I'm creating programs. I'm bringing people together to teach them about leadership. And so, yes, I'm involved in a lot of stuff, but I show up exactly the same way I'm very consistent in who I am.
Show up is my point.
You show up. And but things are created because you show up. Because
Yes.
it does. It gives other people courage to step forward and go, "Oh, I can do that too," or "I'm going to get value from that," or "Yeah, I can actually speak and teach about something because this isn't such a big deal." Right? And it gives them the permission to take that baby step and then they blossom, which I just absolutely love my journey because I get to be a part of so many people's lives.
Yeah. You know, it's the creation of life, right? And the more we create life about ourselves, it's the pass it forward, right? You create life for others. And if we stay stuck, we can't do that. So the more we grow, that's why I always say leadership starts from within, right?
Yes.
When we
Yes.
grow and when our cup is full, we get to spill over. And watching people who blossom like you, I can't even remember, when did we meet? 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
2 or 3 years ago, yes. I think you were on a virtual event that I was emceeing.
Yes.
And then you actually came to Georgia for the John Maxwell Live to Lead, and you were
Right.
like,
You invited me
"I
to.
want a ticket." And I was like, "Okay, come sit with
Yeah.
us." That was amazing though, to have you experience something that has been so special to me and have you experience that and together it was unbelievable.
It was a great experience. I'm bummed I missed the one this year, but next year it's on my calendar,
That's
Mel.
right. That's right.
Yes. So my point is watching you grow through these past couple of years, which is not that long of a time. Again, clarity, consistency, and action. That's
Mhm.
the one I would add to what you're saying. Tell me the third one.
So courage, because I think, we get so scared when we're stuck. Like I said before, you don't know what to do, who to call, where to go. Even if you said, okay, I've got a plan, I've got basically a will for my life. I love teaching this part, right? A will for your life. If you're going to die, you have a will of where are my possessions going to go, who's going to take care of my children. But what about a will for your life? What happens when you get stuck? What are you going to do? Where are my resources? Where are the people? Where's my inner circle? Who can I trust? Who can I count on that's going to put me in a reality check that, hey, you need to get back to your plumb line and be able to really produce the things that are in your heart. And so sometimes when you go through that process, it's the courage that then brings you that confidence to step forward. And those are kind of my 4 C's, if you will. But that all goes together because that's what I practice every single day. When I get up and I'm like, "Oh, it's 7:25. My Bible study starts at 7:30." And I'm like, "Okay, brush your hair, brush your teeth, get online." And then it's just my heart. When people start popping on the line, I go, "Oh my gosh, this is why I'm here." Because we learn and we grow, and I journal every day now, and I get clarity on that next thing that I need to do. And
Yeah.
it's just how it works. And so I don't even have an agenda anymore. I just show up and I just learn and I listen and I evaluate and I think, my goodness, I wouldn't have known this if I had not done this today. Just like with you. I'm learning so much just being here because we have a heart to serve each other. And so these takeaways are going to be amazing.
Right. And you know, speaking about not prepping, I have to agree with that. Before seeing a client, I don't prep for their workout because I don't know what their body is going to be today, right? Are they stressed? Have they slept? Have they eaten well? What's going on emotionally? And I just show up, and I always set an intent that I will give them the best of what I know for their best and highest good. And we go from there. And I think to the point you just make, if you serve from the heart and you always show at your best and you're purpose driven and heart driven, things just, you can't even explain it, right? If you have not tried it, and that's why I think the work that we do is sometimes so out there for people who are very, very knowledge based, right? Like, what do you mean? You can't even explain that until you experience it. But once you experience it, you can never go back.
You
Would you
can
say
never go
so?
back. You can never go back because, you know, when you teach people about values-based, heart-centered leadership, heart-centered, and I think leadership is so overused, but I think leading yourself, you know, being able to say, I want to improve my life. I want to do something that's going to better my life. That starts with how you lead yourself. And so this whole navigation, right? I was taking the part leadership the other day and writing about it. And I was like, well, lead, you walk forward and then you ship is to navigate. So if you learn that, it's pretty basic and it shouldn't be intimidating to say, well, I can't make those decisions or that doesn't affect me because I don't have a title. I haven't earned that at a job. I haven't gotten that yet. It doesn't matter. It's for every single person. And you know, my mentors always say, you know, everyone deserves to be led well. And so if you learn these skills, you can lead yourself well, make better decisions, and have a better life. And that's really what it's all designed for.
Yeah, it's really powerful. It's really, really powerful because you're right. I mean, I will tell you, and I've maybe shared this with you before, all of my education, when I got on this journey, you know, I have a graduate degree, honors, all of that. And I was like, how come I don't know all of this, right? How come nobody ever teaches you this? How come I'm so not aware?
Mhm.
I made my change close to my 40s. And you just discover this world that's out there that we don't talk enough about, but it's such a different world. And I tell people the place where I'm now, I didn't even know this place exists. I don't know if you can relate to that.
Oh
I
my
just knew
gosh.
what I knew.
You know, when I was in corporate America before I was eliminated, I had left a job that I had loved and for 10 years I worked there. And so I could have retired there. I could have, you know, it was a really great job, yet I felt suffocated.
Mm.
So people that are listening, you know, they've had those experiences. It wasn't like the traumatic experience that I had when I was eliminated, yet it almost felt like that because I felt like I wasn't going to be able to grow anymore. And so I made a decision to leave that company and take a risk and go to this company that eventually eliminated me. And, you know, I felt like a failure. Like, how could I have done that to myself? Because I would have never been let go if I would have just stayed there. Yet the things that I learned in those 5 years, I traveled the world. I was training with research doctors all over, you know, in Austria and Germany and London and the Netherlands and things that I would have never experienced had I had stayed in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so I look at that and go, well, you have to take that risk. You have to be able to say, I'm to a point where the pain is greater of I don't know what would happen if, than to just go do it and know that you can always go back, but that's not the intent. The intent is what you're going to learn through it. And then it's going to make you better and give you clarity. Right? You can't get clear until you move.
Well, I always say that the fun is outside the comfort zone. There is no,
Oh my.
it's kind of mundane and over and auto repeat. And you know, being eliminated at that time probably seemed like the biggest tragedy that could have happened to you. But now in retrospective, it's probably the best thing that happened to you.
Well, it is because I didn't any longer feel like that I had to justify what I was doing for somebody else. And that was how I kind of lived my whole life. Like, well, I wonder if I could propose this, you know, to influence change or to get them to buy into what my idea was. Now I just do my idea. I just step into it. And that's where I think the momentum, right? If I could put an M onto those words of the C's, is the momentum that you create. Man, when you are an entrepreneur or when you're doing something on the side, if you're working at a company and you're doing something on your side business, don't ever stop that momentum, because that momentum is powerful and it can give you the clarity faster than you've ever decided because it's just there. Man, I want everybody to in their life experience what we've experienced, because it fills your heart and it explodes your heart and it explodes your mind.
It does. It does. And I can attest to that. Again, it's, to me, it's one of those things. It's like if you have never had a child, that experience, you can think you can relate to it, but I thought I know what it is until I had my daughter.
Mm.
And I think it's a similar thing until you experience, I would say, the euphoria of that growth. And, and I would say it's not all peachy and pink and rosy and smiley, right? There are the bumps on the road, but those are the bumps that help us grow. And you mentioned, you felt like it was a failure, but I've learned that failures are just lessons, and that's it. We don't need to identify with them. They're asking us to redirect.
Mm-hmm. But when you're in corporate America, my experience was in corporate America, you just toe the line. And if you're in sales, you just go by the numbers and you fit into your team and you sell the product, or you go out and you develop the relationships with the customers. And for me, it was to take care of the customers. And so I loved doing that. I loved doing the corporate America roles. It's just when I got to the point where I got really confident in what I was doing, it was, how do I then bring my ideas to the table without being threatening to others? And that was a challenge because I got pretty confident, not cocky, but I could see the bigger picture and I could see how to serve bigger. And I was learning about leadership at a different capacity. And so when you start to learn more about how you operate and what really fuels you and your strengths in that zone, you want to share that in everything that you do. You don't want to do one thing at work and one thing at home, right? You want to be that person wholly. And when you're not allowed to do that, that's when you know that you need, that realignment for me that happened not by choice. That was really important. That time in my life at 50, where I was rolling into my leadership roles and my leadership podcast and really believing in my journey, it was a great time to reassess. Yes, this was important for me to go in that direction. And had that not have happened, I may still be traveling all over the world and thinking, well, okay, I'll give this a couple of hours a week. I would not have the momentum. I would not have the clarity. I would not have the consistency and the commitment to gain my confidence. And so it's just changed my life. It just has. And so I hope everybody can experience that.
I do hope so too. And that will take me to the next question. So rebellious, what's your definition of rebellious, rebel? I think that aligns very much in the context of what you're talking about right now.
I would say rebellious is fighting yourself. Don't fight yourself. Don't fight your ideas. Don't fight your gut feeling. I was in GI for a long time, gastroenterology, and I know your mind is connected to your gut. And when you say, oh, I just don't think that I should, yes, you should. Be a rebel against your own mind, because that is the only way that you're going to break through and take the action. Don't think about it. Don't write about it. Don't hesitate. Take the action.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. You nailed it. It's so good. That's exactly what it means to me. It's authenticity, right? Being yourself, being brave enough, being courageous enough, using your words to be yourself.
Every day.
Now, what is sustaining you in the moments when you hear feedback that's maybe not favorable, or when things don't go right? What is the self-care routine that keeps you grounded and consistent and on top of things to keep that momentum going?
I think for me, it's people. I have a great inner circle of people that I can just reach out to and just talk through something. I just have this unbelievable group of people that I can lean on. In the morning, every day, I can bring something to that group and say, look, I'm struggling with, and I need clarity on, or I need a scripture to go to, I also have this group that I have found through COVID and just through my leadership journey. They're real people, right? In fact, I called somebody yesterday and we were just talking through like, hey, when you have people in your life that may have they're agenda focused and it doesn't feel authentic. And I've learned this lesson, right? To meet people where they are, to understand their journey instead of judging them based on a situation. Because sometimes we see people in a different way, and it makes us feel differently about them,
Absolutely.
right? Instead of understanding why people make the decisions that they make at the time that they've made them. And I could put another word in here, which would be forgiveness, right? Forgiving yourself for not knowing enough to make decisions or not have relationships that you want because you believed a certain way at a certain time about a certain person or an event. It's really important to take inventory of the people in your life and know where those people really care about you and what they stand for, because sometimes people make decisions because they don't have all the information. And so we have to really take a look at the inventory of, are people consistent in making those decisions, or was it just a time in their life when they didn't have the tools, they weren't equipped to make a decision that you may qualify as something that was important. Um, it, it's been such a life-changing process for me to understand how to meet people where they are and not really judge them for the decisions, but really look at the character of the person, and saying, was someone equipped enough to make a decision that helped them grow, or did they not have enough information at the time? And so they were afraid in the scarcity mindset, insecure, right? And you look at people differently and say, were they agenda focused or they just didn't have enough knowledge, right? Their heart had not grown yet. And so that just gives you perspective about your life and who your inner circle really is. And that's, man, I can't even tell you how much I've learned in that process. The forgiveness is how you forgive yourself for not understanding or knowing or judging a relationship because what you felt, right? And then when you grow and you learn differently, you see things, your perspective changes, and then you almost don't have enough time in your life to reconnect those threads and reconnect that bond or reconnect that energy. And so I just want to encourage, I don't know, it's in my heart. I just feel like whoever's going to watch this needs to hear that. Um, really
I
put things in perspective.
put things in perspective, and I totally agree with you. I think I call it the tribe, the people who are around you, right? Your supporters, such as like you're one of my tribe members, right? I can call you and be like, hey Mel, how do you
That's
do that? What do you do about that, right? That's one. And then as far as judgment, I tell my clients, if there is somebody you don't like or somebody you judge, invite them to grab a cup of coffee with you or hop on a call with you and just get to hear their story, because what we see on the front and what's happening in the background, right, could be two very different things.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And we as humans show up and we want to either accept or we judge them or we feel like they have an agenda based on just what we know.
Yeah,
Right.
on what we know, and that's the key, what we know. But
Right.
the stuff we don't know, right?
Right. So it's I guess my challenge is for people to really get to know others, really get to know them from where they are, what they've experienced, what they've gone through. I had the biggest kind of aha moment with my own mom. And for many years, I struggled because my father passed away when I was 5, and she made some really difficult decisions about, choices that she was making. And and I held that against her for a long time. And then I started to realize as I got older, as we all do, but yet if I was 30 years old and I had lost my spouse and I had a 5-year-old daughter, and I went back to my job and I never told anybody that my spouse died because nobody would understand. As my mom says, nobody at 30 years old was a widow. She didn't have a support group in 1973. she didn't. So she just went back to normal to work. And I thought, could I really have made the decisions that she had made at the time in her life when her mother had committed suicide right before I was born? She didn't have a mother to go through losing a spouse and having to be on that journey now. So, I don't know why I just started to think differently, but the perspective of my heart changed for her to say, how could I have ever thought that my selfish ways needed more from her when she was surviving, right? And now what I have to tell you is she is on this amazing journey of personal development. And
Wow.
she's amazing. She's always been amazing, but she's realized that her value has been so much greater in the world. And just because she didn't have people to help her or be an inner circle or be influencers or have mentors at certain times in her life, my heart goes out to her. And she's celebrating her 80th birthday in February, and I'm
Happy birthday.
super
Oh,
excited for her. Yeah. So, but that's really been an aha life moment for me to say, I'm an only child, and so we're really close. Yet there's a lot of things that kids struggle with their parents of, I don't understand why. And so I had to really, again, go back in that deep perspective and think, what was what was she experiencing? And I feel pretty lucky to have gone through my life and have so many positive things happen and be able to have chosen the positivity that I have because I didn't have that other baggage, and I've had great people and I've had great, resources, and I've had great experiences. And so, yeah, my life has been so blessed.
I always tell my daughter, because she's a preteen, and I always tell her, just remember that everything I do for you is because I love you. It might not appear that way. You might not agree with it, but we're just going to agree to disagree. So now when I say, you know why I do that, she rolls her eyes and she goes, I know, Mom, because you love me, But because you're right, I have different perspective than her, right? I worry about her being on the phone all the time. I don't want her, and she looks at this as I'm mean mom who takes away her phone, right? So I think that's a very powerful example, and I'm glad you brought up the family, because I think family relationships can be tricky, right? Because those are the people that we count on, we rely on, and we think we're going to have the same perspective, but we frequently don't. And I'm also glad you brought up forgiveness, because I think that is such a powerful, um, forgiveness is so powerful, and it's not just forgiving others, but it's also forgiving ourselves.
Mm.
And it's not about accepting weakness, right? It's about letting go of the baggage that you're chugging along and choosing to exist in high vibration, in happiness, in positivity, and with love, rather
Mhm,
than blame. So
mhm.
I think that is so soulful, Mel. Thank you.
Ah, you're welcome. Having a joyful heart, it is letting go of all that. Don't be frozen. Don't go back and say, well, if, think about those people in your life that you want a relationship with, that you believe that there is, not that you're comparing yourself to anybody else, but what is important to you? What relationship is the most important to you? And step into that. Do a little bit of soul searching, write about what moment maybe that you've had struggles with that, and take a look at that person's life. What were they going through? Who did they have in their inner circle? Where did they have mentors? Did they have struggles? Because you'll probably find out that they had a lot more weight that they were carrying on their side than you did. And if you could have just shown up to support or give advice or just step into that moment, it may have lessened that burden for them. So,
And I think that's also a great advice in the context of ourselves, right? When we start beating on ourselves and blaming ourselves and being less than kind to ourselves, what were the circumstances that led us there? And allowing ourselves to choose to love ourselves and be kind to ourselves, and to move once again from a place of, I am what I am because of what happened, whatever it was, and it happened for a reason.
mm,
So I think
mm,
that's
mm.
all right. Let's wrap up. Tell one advice that you tell people based on where you stand or what you do.
Oh,
I
gosh.
know, just one. Sorry.
Oh. Well, I think again, it is how you do one thing is really how you do everything. And so be careful how that one thing is. Be careful what that one thing is. Check yourself. Be sure that you're developing that one thing that you want to encourage and improve, and then share that.
Love it. Awareness, right? Create that awareness. Mel, tell people who do you help and how can people find you?
Oh, I help people that have a vision in their heart to have a better strategy for their life every day. My company is Everyday Leaders, and you can find me in all the things that I do at everydayleaders.com. You can join our Bible study. There's a link right there on the page. You can just scroll down. It's right there, a live link every day. All the women's events that I do here locally in Indianapolis, and all the virtual things that I'm involved in. So if there's anything that I can do to help you with your daily strategies, that's what I'm about.
I love it, Mel. Mel, thank you so much. I'll say again for the soulful conversation and your energy and your passion and your inspiration. And we will be in touch. And for those of you watching and listening, thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, please reach out and I will post Mel's contact information so that if you have any questions to her, you can reach out. Make it a rebellious day. Can't get enough of those rebellious conversations? Do make sure you subscribe, like, and share with your friends.